The Laughing Chai Walla, One Cup of Tea at a Time. Episode 1. The Journalist with the Curious Eyes. I have been selling chai at the small railway station in Thirupaloor for so many years now that time feels like a blur. My life is measured in cups of tea, not calendars. My name is Gopal, though most people here call me Gopal Anna, meaning older brother Gopal, or simply Chai Walla, which suits me just fine. I'm 68 years old, or so I believe. The actual date of my birth was never recorded anywhere. My mother used to say I came into this world at dawn on the day after Pongal, the harvest festival in Tamil Nadu. That is all I know for certain. I live just a stone's throw away, behind the rickety tin stalls and broken walls of the slum quarter. My tiny home, an asbestos-roofed shanty propped with wooden posts, stands at the edge of a row of similar dwellings, each with a personality of its own. Even though it's cramped and battered by monsoons, it is home. Everything I own, from my battered steel kettle to my old transistor radio, has lived under that roof as long as I have. Every morning, before the first train from Chennai pulls into the station, I roll out my wooden cart that's older than my son. If I had one, I have only daughters. I situate it on the platform, right next to the old banyan tree, whose roots have managed to crack through the station's concrete floor. I heat water in a large aluminum vessel over a portable kerosene stove, carefully measure out tea leaves, mix in crushed ginger and cardamom, and sweeten it with sugar or jaggery, depending on the customer's preference. I add creamy milk with quick, practiced motions that come from decades of repetition. When passengers disembark, rubbing sleep from their eyes or adjusting their heavy bags, they come to me like bees to a jasmine bloom. Gopal Anna, 2 cups, quick, they say, and I'm always delighted. My chai has become part of the station's identity. More than that, it is my identity. In this station, I have seen countless faces. A teacher traveling to the next town, a pilgrim heading to Ramaswaram, a soldier returning on leave, a fisherman from the coast, students in crisp uniforms, newly married couples with nervous excitement, and on, like watching an endless film reel. But one face in particular stands out these days, an unfamiliar foreign face that I spotted 2 mornings ago, sporting an eager smile and bright, curious eyes. It wasn't unusual to see a foreign tourist in Thirupaloor, especially if they were on their way to some temple or maybe doing a story about rural India. Yet this man had an air of sincerity, a mixture of curiosity and respect that made me take a second look. He was tall, with short hair and a khaki backpack slung over one shoulder. I was pouring chai for a group of traveling vendors when he approached my cart. Standing a respectful distance away, he looked at the cardamom pods in my hand with fascination. "Hello," he said, in a polite but tentative voice, carefully enunciating English as though I might not understand. "Could I have a cup of tea, please?" "Most certainly," I answered in English, though my accent might have been thick. I slid one of my well-worn clay cups in his direction. He seemed surprised that I spoke English. I guess it's not every day you find an old Indian man in a small-town railway station who can speak a little more than broken phrases. After taking a sip, his face lit up with delight. "This is marvelous," he exclaimed. "What's that flavor?" "Ginger and cardamom," I said, giving him my usual grin, which most folks here know me by. It's my own special blend. He inhaled the aroma deeply, almost as though memorizing it. "I'm Michael," he introduced himself, fiddling with the straps of his backpack. "Michael Hastings from Australia. I'm here working on a story." "It's a pleasure, Michael G," I said, using the respectful suffix. "Welcome to Thirupaloor." At that moment, I didn't know how much this Michael would come to mean to me, or that he would turn my station world, this life I had grown so comfortable with, into a tapestry of memories I'd never realized needed sharing. A late-night meeting. I didn't see him again until late that night, around 11, when the last train from Madurai was set to arrive. The platforms are always quieter at that hour, home mostly to the echoing footsteps of night shift staff, dozing travelers, or the occasional scurrying mouse. I have my lantern on, and I continue to serve chai to the few stragglers and railway cops who enjoy a hot beverage before turning in for the night. He arrived, hair a bit dishevelled, a small notepad tucked under his arm, and his camera around his neck. He approached my cart again, this time hesitating as if he thought I might have run out of tea. "Chai at this hour?" he asked, sounding both hopeful and uncertain. I let out a hearty laugh, the one people say is so infectious it echoes against the station's tiled walls. "My friend," I replied, "I sell chai at all hours. My home is just behind that broken wall you see over there. When the passengers need tea, I am here." I poured him a cup, steam curling upwards into the night sky. The station lights gave everything a slightly yellow hue. A few yards away, a dog rummaged around in an overturned bin for scraps. The wind carried a faint smell of diesel and overripe bananas from the fruit stall that had closed hours ago. Michael took a seat on the wooden bench near my cart. He savoured a slow sip, letting the warm liquid flow down his throat. "It's fascinating," he said after a moment, tapping his notepad absently. "Everyone here seems to know you. They greet you with such warmth. It's almost like you're some local celebrity." I couldn't help but grin. "Celebrity? I don't know about that. But perhaps friend. Yes." He chuckled. "You must have some stories, Gopal Anna." "Stories?" I repeated, lifting an eyebrow. "Oh, you mean about this station? The passengers?" "And about your life," he said, his eyes twinkling. "I'm a journalist, but I've always been drawn to personal stories more than big breaking news. I was told by someone in Chennai that if I wanted to understand real life here, I should skip the big cities, and so I found Thirupaloor." "Well, you've come to the right place," I said, scraping the bottom of my kettle. "Though you might be disappointed, my life is simple." He laughed softly. Sometimes simple can be far more profound. We chatted a bit about his travels across India, about the differences between Australia and Tamil Nadu. He told me about the dust storms back home and how he'd been traveling to different small towns to document everyday heroes, people who quietly hold communities together. He asked about my routine, about how long I'd been selling chai, about the nuances of tea itself. "You seem like a man at peace," he said, always smiling. "Why is that?" I paused for a second. The truth is, I've been asked that question before, though usually not by a foreigner. Sometimes people notice that I'm always in a good mood, always full of laughter. My face is lined with the kind of wrinkles that come from a lifetime of squinting under the hot sun and smiling in any weather. "My father used to tell me," I began, "the best way to cheat sadness is to laugh at it. If you can find just one small reason to smile each day, you're wealthier than the richest man in the country." Michael scribbled my words in his notepad as though they were precious gems. I felt both amused and a little shy. No one had ever jotted down my little life philosophies before. The invitation. In the days that followed, I saw Michael at random intervals. Sometimes he'd arrive around midday, wearing sunglasses and a wide-brimmed hat to shield himself from the fierce sun. Other times, he'd show up just as the evening train from Trichy was departing. He'd take photos of my cart, my hands pouring tea, the swirl of steaming liquid. He spoke to the station master, the porters, the fruit vendors, the beedi seller by the entrance. At first, I was a bit self-conscious. Being studied through a camera lens can be unsettling. But Michael never made me feel like an oddity. He treated me with genuine respect, and I responded in kind. One afternoon, as the scorching sun had driven most people to seek shade, Michael approached my cart again, panting from the heat. This time, he brought small plastic cups, since my clay cups were running low. I noticed he had a stack of them in his backpack. "I got these for you," he said. "I didn't want you to spend extra money on cups today." I was touched by the gesture. "That's very kind of you, but you must let me pay you back." He waved his hand dismissively. "No, consider it a gift. These only cost a few rupees." In the corner of the station, I saw the old newspaper vendor, Narayan, eyeing us curiously. He'd been around as long as I had, and he liked to poke fun at me sometimes. "Ah, Gopal Anna, you have a new best friend," Narayan shouted across the platform, laughter in his voice. "So, Michael, sir, are you going to write about how Gopal makes the best chai in all of Tamil Nadu?" Michael laughed good-naturedly. "I just might do that." Narayan cackled and gave me a wink. He was missing a tooth, so it looked rather comedic. It reminded me of how everyone here is woven into a communal fabric. None of us is truly alone. After serving a rush of midday passengers, I had a moment to rest. The next train was an hour away, and the station settled into a lull, punctuated only by the occasional bark of a dog or the squeak of a luggage cart. Michael lingered nearby, pen behind his ear, notepad open on his lap. He cleared his throat. "Gopal Anna, if you ever have time, I'd love to do a formal interview," he said. "Perhaps somewhere quieter, or even at your home, if that's acceptable." I folded my arms, thinking. My home is small, very small, and I live in the slum behind the station. But if you don't mind that, you're welcome. His face lit up. I'd be honored. And that's how I ended up inviting a foreign journalist into my humble abode. Entering my world. It was around 7 in the evening when we met by the station's entrance gate. Michael followed me, carefully stepping over potholes in the dirt road. We crossed a narrow footbridge that spanned an open drainage channel, its foul smell a testament to the city's neglected infrastructure. The cluster of tin-roofed homes soon surrounded us, small cooking fires flickering at their thresholds. The smell of onions frying in oil and pungent masala drifted in the warm air. Barefoot children ran through the lanes, chasing each other with shrieks of delight. My home was the fifth in a row of what some would call shacks, but we who live here call them houses. It had corrugated metal and salvaged wooden planks for walls, with a sheet of asbestos roofing overhead. I pushed aside a cloth that served as a makeshift door. "Come in," I said, stepping aside. "Watch your head. It's low." Michael ducked, entering my world. A single kerosene lamp provided dim light inside. On the left side, a raised platform covered by a thin woven mat served as my bed. In the corner, an old trunk containing my clothes, a few books, and old photo albums. A small wooden stand held my battered utensils and a single-burner stove. "It's cozy," Michael commented, kneeling slightly to avoid bumping his head. He didn't sound patronizing. Rather, he was making an honest observation. I busied myself lighting a small stove. I keep a kettle here for my personal chai. Even though I sell chai all day, I still enjoy making a fresh pot at home. "Sit, sit." I gestured to my bed, the only place one can sit in here besides the floor. "You have so little," Michael observed quietly, taking in the cramped interior. "And yet you're always smiling." I shrugged. "We do the best we can. Besides, happiness is not in the walls or the roof. It's in the heart, no?" He nodded, scribbling this down in his notepad. "That's beautiful. Do you live alone?" "Yes," I answered. "My wife passed away many years ago, and my daughters are both married, living in cities far from here. They come visit when they can, but life is busy, you know." Michael listened intently, a thoughtful look on his face. "I'm very sorry to hear about your wife," he said softly. "May I ask how it happened?" I paused, stirring the chai. The memory still stings, even though I try to keep the grief locked away. "She died of an illness," I said, measuring each word carefully. "In those days, we didn't have the money for better doctors. We tried the government hospital, but it was too late." He looked down, perhaps realizing he had touched on a sensitive topic. "That must have been very hard." "It was," I agreed. Then, taking a deep breath, I shook off the sadness like a dog shakes off water. "But the station and these people, they helped me heal. Serving chai, chatting with strangers, hearing their own stories. It gave me a purpose." Michael let the silence fill the room for a few beats, respecting the gravity of the moment. Then he said, "If it's all right with you, Gopal Anna, I'd like to write a piece about your life. I think you have a story that needs telling." I cocked my head, surprised. "Me? But I've done nothing extraordinary." He smiled. "That's precisely why it's extraordinary. You represent millions of people in this country who live humble, honest lives and radiate warmth in ways that are rarely celebrated." A wave of emotion swept through me. No one had ever phrased it quite like that before. "If you think it will help your readers understand my world, then I am happy to share." And that's how our arrangement began. We decided that over the next few days, or however long Michael's assignment kept him in Thirupaloor, he would spend a couple of hours with me each day, listening to my stories and experiences. Then he'd compile them into an article or a series of articles. The first recording. Michael pulled out a small audio recorder from his backpack. "May I record our conversation?" he asked. I nodded. "I'm an old man, but I don't mind new technology," I said with a laugh. "Record away." He set it on a small stool and pressed a button. A tiny red light glowed, capturing every word. "So, Gopal Anna," he began, "can you tell me how you first started selling chai at the station?" I leaned back, crossing my legs on the bed. Memories rushed back like a tidal wave. I recalled the day I stood on the same platform, trembling with nerves, offering my first cups of tea. I was only a boy, about 14 or 15. My father had died suddenly. Heart failure, the local doctor said. I was the only son, and my mother was in no condition to support us. So I left school and began looking for any work that would put rice on our plates. "There was an old tea seller before me," I explained. "His name was Rahim Pai. He was getting on in age and needed someone to help him run his cart. I started carrying boiling water from his house to the station, then washing cups, wiping the cart. Over time, I learned the art of blending tea. When he retired, he passed the cart on to me." Michael nodded, clearly fascinated. "So you learned everything from him?" "He taught me the basics," I said, "but everyone develops their own touch. For me, it's the pinch of crushed ginger and a bit of cardamom that sets it apart, and the right proportion of milk to water. That's the secret." He laughed. "I'll keep that in mind. Speaking of which, is the tea ready?" I jumped up, realizing I'd let the chai simmer. Yes, yes. Let me pour it." We sipped our cups. The sweet and spicy aroma filled the tiny space, and I felt an odd sense of contentment. Here was this foreign journalist, sitting cross-legged in my humble shack, listening to my life story like it was the most important tale in the world. An unexpected comfort. I wasn't used to talking about my past in such detail. Usually, when I meet strangers at the station, we talk about current affairs, the weather, cricket, or the price of vegetables. Rarely do I open up about where I came from, what tragedies shaped me, or how I found my laughter again. But with Michael, something felt right. He had a gentle way of asking questions, never probing too forcefully, never judging. After we finished our chai, I escorted him back to the station. By then, the stars were out, twinkling above the platform lights. A few late-night travelers huddled on a bench, waiting for the midnight express. The air was cooling down, a welcome respite from the sweltering day. Michael turned to me. "Thank you, Gopal Anna," he said, placing a hand over his heart. "This is more than I could have hoped for. May I come by again tomorrow?" I gave him my widest grin, the one people say is so infectious. "Of course. I will be here, as always, with my chai." He laughed. "I'll bring the cups." And with that, he sauntered off toward the small lodge he was staying in. I watched him disappear around the bend of the road. The station fell quiet, save for the chirping of crickets and the distant rumble of an approaching freight train. Night reflections. When I finally returned to my shack that night, I found it difficult to sleep. My mind buzzed with old memories, as though an invisible hand had yanked open a trunk of forgotten photographs. I thought of my father's sudden death. I remembered how my mother cried inconsolably for weeks, how I held her frail hands and promised to care for her. I recalled my first day at the station, the overwhelming sense of diesel fumes and the stench from the public toilets, the wheels of trains clacking on the tracks, the swirl of tea leaves in a pot, the first coins dropping into my trembling palm as I handed over a hot cup to a hungry passenger. I also thought about the many people I'd encountered over the decades. A wandering holy man who swore he had mystical powers, a dancer from a travelling folk theatre group, an author who penned romance novels in Tamil, and a man who once claimed to have come from the moon. I wondered which of these stories Michael would want to hear and how I might piece them together to make sense of it all. It struck me then that maybe my life wasn't just a monotonous routine after all. Maybe, in some small way, I was the keeper of 1,000 stories, gleaned from strangers on their journeys. I had my own story too, humble but forged by love, loss, and resilience. Somewhere in the distance, I heard the whistle of the midnight express. I pictured the train rushing past, carrying its cargo of souls, each with their own dreams and destinies. And then there was me, the old Chai Walla, rooted at that station like the banyan tree, providing warmth in a small clay cup to whoever needed it. I closed my eyes, letting the night's hush enfold me. Tomorrow, Michael would come again, and I felt a curious blend of nerves and excitement. Perhaps it was time to share not just the tea, but the stories steeped in my heart. Just before sleep finally claimed me, I remembered something my father used to say. Every cup of chai is a new beginning. No matter how many cups you've sold, treat each one like it's your first. I smiled in the darkness, comforted by the thought. There would be more chai in the morning, more stories to tell. And so, my journey with Michael, the curious journalist from Australia, had truly begun.